this is a question. It's kind of a pandemic right now in the pitching sense or in the baseball world. It is the pitching injuries, and the recent one right now is Grayson Rodriguez, but it's not an elbow injury. Yoni, it's shoulder inflammation, and maybe you can it's a broad topic here. We'll start with that, but initial thoughts here on what could possibly be going on and what you have to do to kind of get back on track. Because again, this is also May 2nd as we're talking about this, and there's still a full slate of the season left.
Yeah, you have so much time left. And so when it comes to shoulder, shoulder is my favorite joint in the human body. It is a freaking miracle it ever works properly. But when you try to boil it down, it's either the guy's labrum, so that's the inside of the shoulder, or it's his rotator cuff. Those are the muscles that pass over the shoulder. And based upon what we hear, at least from the team, they're not going to tell us much, but there's some type of inflammation going on. I'm sure they took an MRI. I'm sure they realized that there isn't catastrophic damage. Otherwise, you'd see a different result than the 15-day IL. And so he probably got some anti-inflammatories in there, both probably taking medication as well as an injection. And they're going to try to let it calm down. Now, hopefully, this guy is hounding the strength of his rotator cuff muscles. And so waking those muscles up, getting them stronger so that he can support the entire structure across so much of the season that's left. Interesting point is the shoulder actually gets stiffer and weaker the more you pitch. So you want to see these guys keeping up with what they call their arm care and strength, because the more you throw a baseball, the worse your shoulder works. So I'm sure he's working hard at getting that strength back and calming down that inflammation with the medication.
Yeah, and we talked with Jeff Passan, the one of the top reporters in the baseball world, and he was saying that, and I think Zach, you even pulled up that graphic of guys that throw with the most velocity.
Yeah.
The top 10 in velocity alone, all are on the IL or out except for one, and that's Hunter Green, right, Zach?
Yeah, only one of the top 10 velo guys are not on the injured list right now.
So that's crazy, and I know it's not an elbow issue, and actually that's going to lead into the next question. But before we get to that question, just to go with the shoulder, I think I'll be honest, guys. When you think about this, I've been around the game for a while. I never heard about the shoulder getting stiff. Yeah, I've heard about our arm getting weak, but the stiffness in itself, then, Yoni, that's a whole other different element. People just think about you losing strength, but if you lose mobility, is that fair to say? In the region, exactly. That's what can cause people to kind of overcompensate. Do I sound like I know what I'm talking about?
You sound like you know what you're talking about. You're just maybe a little bit off. And so
perfect.
The shoulder does get stiff as hell. I saw a professional baseball player recently that developed something called a frozen shoulder, where he can't even lift his shoulder up above shoulder height, right? So that gets really hard to achieve any type of velocity when that transpires. And then because you're not using all of that range of motion, then the shoulder gets very weak. So when doing it properly throughout the season, we're talking healthy or injured, you want to make sure that before every start and after every start, you're making sure that you're maintaining that range of motion so that you can then move the muscles appropriately. Remember, think about those stills right before the pitcher starts to come forward in his motion. His arm is totally laid back, as we call it in the biz, right? So it's got to totally externally rotate. If you start missing any of those degrees of motion, your velocity will dip and you're at a much higher risk for injury.
I think every single one of us in here, you can't see us, are all moving our arms around.
Yeah, I was sitting there doing this the whole time.
Of what different motion. But people have asked, in your opinion here, what timeline could this be for Grayson missing time? Could he come off the IL right at the 15 days? Or is this something that could prolong longer than people anticipate?
Yeah, I mean, it totally depends what's going on in that shoulder. If he has any structural damage, it's going to take far longer than 15 days. If he had a little bout of inflammation, they can calm it down. And remember, he's got to be rehabbing his ass off during these 15 days.
Yeah.
He's not just sitting around. It is totally normal to see these little blips of, hey, this got inflamed. Let's put some cortisone on it, calm it down, see if we can come up with a reason why it happened correct those and get the guy back out on the field. It's really, you'll see it though come September. Like, where's this guy's velo going to be, right? Because now he's going to have a tendon that's slightly weakened by the cortisone. Maybe those muscles shut off. How long can he keep going at a high level? And by the way, you saw this coming back from UCL stuff as well. We saw it with Bradish. He got that PRP injection, which is when they pull your blood out, spin it down, and then put it back onto the injured area so that it can increase healing rates. They'll look really good for the short term. What do they look like in September? That can really be a toss-up.
And now that you mentioned that, and I just cringed thinking about the blood and the getting the.
I actually did not know that's what a PRP shot is. I just keep saying that PRP shot like I knew what it was. I'd be like, yeah, Brad's got the PRP shot.
Yeah,
medical professional Zach Bellinger.
Yeah, that is not in any way what I thought a PRP shot is. But the more you know.
We have not Dr. Bollinger with us here. But in all honesty, too, but that's the part. Maybe touch on this real quickly and we'll wrap up. Just Kyle Bradish then. I've talked to people. We were all tense today, Brad. Fair to say we were kind of like nervous. Is this something for the rest of the season that you're just going to have to wait after every start and hope that things are going well? Or can there be this hill that Kyle Bradish has gotten over here that he's now back? You know, can you just kind of touch on the situation?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the word. Better word.
There you go. I would say it's more of the cringe and the prayer after every pitch and after every start.
You had to say that.
I'm sorry about that. Just trying to be a realist. By the way, we saw this with Bautista, right?
Yeah.
He had a strain. They're gonna inch him back. He's looking good. I remember I was talking to my buddies about it, and they're like, Bautista's got this UCL thing. I'm like, dude, he's done for the year. They're like, no, he's going to rehab it. He's going to come back. And then they sent me clips of him throwing freaking hard off the mound. I'm like, dude, just wait. And so you just never know. Now, you do see guys bounce back. And if you do the rehab properly, sometimes the tissues respond. But I'm saying a prayer for Bradish.
Every night we do. Every night. And honestly, I know Zach's not. That's not the news.
We gotta get some of those long candles with Bradish on it and light them.
Okay,
like a Bradish shrine.
Sure, that's not what that's going a little bit too excessive, Kevin. We're not going to add that to the show. But we appreciate your thought process. You're a good kid.
Kevin wants to summon like the afterlife to help Kyle Bradish.
Yeah.
If it help him win the World Series, I'll do it.
You know what? Kevin makes a point.
He does anything to win games here. Anything to win games. He's not wrong. And so we're going to have to wait. And that's something when I talk to Brad, I call him, we have Brad here, but I call Bradish Brad at times too. You know, that was the thing is, he's understanding. He just wants to be out there. And Zach Lowther, pitcher with the Orioles and my former teammate, he's had the experience, 2 cortisone shots, and it is not fixed. It is a Band-Aid. And because the tear is still kind of going to be there, right, Yoni? Like it doesn't just go away.
There's no question. The worry is, you throw cortisone into a joint, cortisone just eats away at whatever's in its way. So usually it's inflammation, but it can also eat away at the tendons and sometimes make things worse. So that's why you go to PRP, because it increases healing as opposed to the Band-Aid.